Good afternoon. Please welcome our moderator for this afternoon's Business Collaboration Roundtable, Helen Henneveld, President of Bedrock Learning.
Hi. Hi, thanks for being here, and I like seeing a lot of friends from the past, and I'm going to make a lot of new friends in the next 3 days. So for those that don't know my history, it was in '89, some of you were in preschool, I put on the side of my van the leader in home automation. This is 27, 28 years ago. Pretty easy to be the leader when there were no followers. No structured wiring panels, no trade shows, no associations, nothing. I did home automation for 10 years, installs all over North America, and I'm proud to say I sold my company. It's still in business in the top 100, so that's great. Since then, I've been doing a lot of training, consulting, speaking, traveled around the world. I'm passionate about this industry. I'm passionate about business, and that's why I'm here to help you guys. So I appreciate the opportunity that AE Ventures invited me to participate. So we're going to start with, today we're here to talk about business collaboration. And I'll tell you, we had a prep call with the team, and it's going to be quite lively discussion, okay, what we've got going on. So our goal today is to identify what are the common problems and hopefully come up with some solutions. I'll be moderating the panel, and John Galante will be helping facilitate when we break into discussion groups at each of our tables. On the panel, we have David Goldsworthy representing the electrical community, and each person's going to get a chance to talk. Nadia Martin, professionally married, so new name. Did I get the new last name right? McMahon. Okay, so new, I got it wrong. So, representing the design community, Eric Furman representing the mechanicals, HVAC, and plumbing. Michael Johnson, who goes by MJ, representing the Brinks Custom Homes. And Michael Malinowski, an architect, represent that community of us. And then Yves Richard, representing as an integrator. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, what we're going to do today, first, everybody gets to rant, those guys up here, and they are going to rant or share what their frustrations and challenges are in those 4 areas, okay? And then we're going to put it off to you guys to come up with some solutions to what you see the problems and what solutions we can have. Then we're going to get your insights, share them with the group, and then we'll wrap up, and I have some collaboration tips and processes, things that you can go implement right away. So I got 2 handouts today. First handout has a summary of the phases of a project, okay? And Jeanette, there, she's handing them out. You're going to get them. Okay. So to start, first I want to share, we have all these systems in the home, and it's a puzzle on how to solve them. All those systems are out there, and you might do one, you might do multiples, et cetera. It's a challenge getting them all to work together. So it was years ago I put together the puzzle house. It's pretty simple. Each system in the house is a piece of the puzzle, and they all fit together. Over the 20 years that I've had the puzzle house, we used to have the structured wiring as the white between them. Now that is actually the home network on the structured wiring or the wireless network. And that's what pulls each of the pieces together. So it's very much an integrated system. So we're hoping by the trades who have to work together to solve this problem, we come up with some solutions. So I'm big on one-page documents to help you. I didn't mention, right now, my company's Bedrock Learning. I started it 10, 15 years ago. We do online training and business forums, procedures, et cetera. All generic. We don't push any brands or products. We're here to help you succeed in business, whatever stage you're at. We have over 70 hours of online training and such. So I pulled some of the things from there and customized them for this presentation. So I like things to be simple on one page. So here is a flow chart of the project phases, okay? We have 3 departments in every company. You have sales, admin, and operations, okay? First is the sales and setting the customer expectations, okay? The second phase is design and production planning. This is a phase I don't see a lot of integrators focusing enough on, and it's so critical that planning get done right, okay? And so having the right tools to make that happen, whether how small you are or how big you are, having the tools, having this plan is so important. The third phase is actually doing the work. Pre-wire, trim out, install, whatever. If you're the HVAC guy, whatever it is that's being installed, it's the actual field work installation. The fourth phase is the customer experience. So onboarding them to the new system when they move in, training and giving them that ongoing support. So when we look at those 4 phases, there are challenges at each stage, and there are challenges specific to each trade, okay? So I want you to keep those 4 in mind, and now we'll go. So there are the 4 phases of a project. And Dave, go ahead and share, give 30 seconds on your background, and then share what some of the pain points are for you in those 4 areas.
Okay. My name is Dave Goldsworthy. I'm with the electrics company. We've been in business for 37 years now in the electrical construction and automation. When John called me and talked to me about doing a presentation and getting in front of everybody and talking, first I was thinking, no way. And then he said, you're talking about the pain points, your pet peeves. I'm going, okay, I can do that. That's easy. Relating to the sales and the customer expectations, most of the projects we're involved in nowadays, at least the projects that we're involved with, have a project management company that's a buffer between the construction and design team and between the owner. And a lot of things are lost in that translation between them. So we like to try to get a hold of the customer and be able to sit down with the customer and find out exactly what their wants are, what their needs are, what their expectations are, when the house is done, and not what the project management company thinks that we should be putting in or thinks what the owners would want for, that typical house that they're building. And the other thing is with the internet. The internet's a great tool for them to go get information and see how a system works and what a system can do, because they're always going to be looking further than what you're telling them. But the bad part of the internet is the pricing. The people look at the prices and they can't get past what the price is on the internet compared to what you're charging. They don't understand that, you have to pay sales tax, you have overhead. And one of the words that's not in their vocabulary is profit. Forget that. That's out. On number 2, the design and production planning. Too many times, home automation is something that is brought in after the design phase, after the construction is started. They're starting to frame walls, and then they bring in different integrators, for the audio visual, for the lighting control systems, for the automated shades, for the controlling the HVAC. They start bringing in all these different system designers to try to put the package together instead of starting out in the design phase. I'd like to see them start with the architects, put a line item in and start with the design phase and have their it's almost like it's automatic. It's just like having a structural engineer. You have to have somebody integrating.
What I put down is get in early.
Get in early. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
And then in the job site, when you're actually doing the work?
Actually, the qualified and trained personnel. Just, having your employees go, the manufacturers all have great seminars on their installation of their systems and such, and it's, spend the money and have your guys get trained.
Okay, good.
That's it.
And then at the end, do you have one for customer experience?
For customer service, just to make sure that the customer gets what they want, that it's programmed the way that they want it, and make sure the first time you met with them, that all those expectations are met.
It goes back to phase 1, to the first phase,
Yes.
which is sales and customer expectations. Great, thank you. Okay, and Nadia, 20 seconds on yourself.
My name is Nadia Elberbley McMahon. I am a designer and have been one in Southern California for about 25 years. My company is based in Manhattan Beach. We are primarily residential, but we are also under contract with a couple hotels, so that makes us hospitality and commercial. We do small projects, we do large projects. We did a 90-foot Swan custom yacht and made it iPad compatible, which is something that they'd never done before when they manufactured, so it can be a lot of fun. What my clients are looking for is the Jetson lifestyle. They want comprehensive integration with intuitive features. They expect it all, they expect it done, they expect it to live up to the hype that they see on advertising and online on the internet. And they're savvy and they want to have the best on the block.
So I would say the challenge is setting those customer expectations at the sales stage.
The challenge I have is I am their translator. I'm also the person saying, okay, but I'm sure something might happen. How long does it take to get that live? I think yesterday we talked about a new home, smart home construction, about 1.5 years in construction on the ocean in Laguna Beach, and it took 9 months for the smart home to be smart. So the crew actually lived there every day. They were working on it constantly, but it took 9 months to bring a smart home. And as my client said, my smart home took 9 months to come to fruition. So, I mean, that's a problem. For the planning, for the most part, when we start a design project for new construction, we are, before they break ground, while the blueprint is still being done, we are working to ensure that what the client wants at the end is achievable and that we're working it into the structure and how we're building, especially on commercial jobs. Job site project work, I have contractors and electricians and lots of great guys that come in and do that. I ask that they play well together. That's what I ask.
Do all trades play well together?
No.
I ask that they do. For customer experience, I said yesterday that orange was the new green. And what I mean by that is I have a client who purchased a beautiful underlit onyx bar with LED lighting and wanted orange. Orange was their preferred color. They also wanted dimmable capabilities. Well, they got dimmable, but what dimmable meant was it became green, because as they reduced the orange, they got the colors that mixed together to be orange. It was no longer orange, it was green. That is where customer expectation doesn't meet what the manufacturer said would happen. Yes, it's dimmable, but it was reduced in how it functioned. I find that clients they are less interested in proprietary products. They want flexibility. They want to be able to take something and add something else in and have it work nice together. They are extremely resistant now to a system that will only let you use its own proprietary products. And I think I have covered.
You covered it. That is very good. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have Eric from the Smart Home Way. Okay. This is plumbing and HVAC.
Hello, everyone. I'm the invisible man in the room. When you watch HGTV, if you've been involved for your own home or in home building, any part of it, commercial. Commercial is a little bit different, but we'll stay focused on homes. It's the last thing, if it's even talked about at all, is the mechanical aspects of a home. And a little bit about my background. I have been on both sides, residential and commercial, probably equally over the last 20 years. Done the menial all the way up to managing projects. So really have a really good scope of it. Plus I have a wife that's an architect, and so we get to have our own heated discussions about the Grand Canyon that exists between, and it was mentioned up here with the last panel, I wrote this down several times, is the collaboration and the disconnect that exists. Just to give you a little quick a story about Brazil and how they work, the engineer, the person that most of us never even see, is actually the guy that runs the whole project from start to finish. It sounds crazy, right? But it actually works really well. and the integration and the collaboration just flows in a completely different way there. And that's one thing that I wrote down here, and starting with the customer's expectations in the beginning, if any of you have been in sales classes, there's two things people buy from, and it's based on trust and value. And if they don't see the value or trust that it's not even mentioned, it's a non-existent point, the mechanical part in the beginning for most of the home, whether it's remodel or new construction, it's not even there, you don't even have a sale. And then if there's confusion, which is a sale killer, that's why it's just one of these things that doesn't really exist. But it's not going away. It's something we deal with, whether it's in the middle or the end of the project. Title 24, as most of us are aware. I'm actually in these meetings too, and I get a lot of information about what's coming down. I mean, when we're all hot in our house, we love when that air conditioner works, and we all know when it doesn't work well, when it's not designed properly. And part of the, I really like what Theo and his company has come up with the CEDIA, is the coordination to eliminate, to educate, and to create together in the beginning. When I grew up, I do come from a family of contractors, home builders, and even still, it was like that furnace, that air conditioner, that's that thing in the wall that's in the attic. And you know, we all love our phones and our TVs and our floors and all this stuff. So behind the scenes stuff never really comes into play. And so hopefully that could be brought up in the beginning. And it just really comes down to educating people. And it's difficult because air and water both are riddled with misinformation and bogus products. And a lot has changed in the industry though too. It used to be just put a piece of equipment in there. Well, now there's like 15 different pieces, and then on both sides, and then all these different brands, and then how does it work with your thermostat? So really the sales and the design going these 2 points, it's really missed from what I've seen on the residential end. And even when I did sales on residential for mechanical equipment, it's like selling bags of rocks to people. I just love the challenge. Job site, that's sometimes when the mechanical stuff comes into play. Like, oh my gosh, I forgot, we got to squeeze in an air conditioning system and a furnace and all this duct work. Well, part of Title 24, I'm watching the clock here, they want us to put like unreasonable things in a home. So there's somebody sitting in this back room saying, oh, this is how it should be. Well, it doesn't really translate well into the field. So that's my biggest pain point through all these is the whole transition through everything, and then getting to the customer experiences.
And you see
thermostat.
education.
That's all they see.
Education as the key.
Education is huge. We need more of it, and there's a plethora of information on the internet, but the right education. Maybe it sounds like they have an actual location that you can go and learn these things, and not even pressure people
Good
to
point.
buy, but just learn about it.
Yeah, okay,
So.
great. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Next up. There we go.
There we go.
We have MJ from Brink Custom Home. So go ahead, MJ, share your pain points in these 4 areas. Tell a little bit about your company.
Thank you. I've been living in the Tahoe area for the last 25 years. I've been involved that entire time in construction, worn a lot of hats. I started out framing, finished carpentry, moved into design, actually worked in an architecture studio for almost a decade, and before coming back into the construction side. So I've been on both sides of the table for a long time, and my buzzword got stolen, but I think I'm going to add to it that education is really where I see this needing to be focused, and it is about educating clients and having them have a greater understanding for what their options are and what their capabilities are these days with the emerging technology. But I also want to add that it's about my education as well. I am constantly impressed and amazed by clients that come to us with challenges and desires that are new and innovative. So it's about educating clients, but also about me keeping up with them many
Okay.
times.
So that's one of the challenges is for yourself
Sure,
and your team to
sure.
be educated. And as we get more and more information and things are changing faster and faster, it becomes a bigger and bigger challenge.
It is. It's a
What
back and
about
forth.
challenges at the install stage?
At the install,
field.
For us, and I feel very fortunate that we typically work with an integrator who is also our electrician, and we've had a great success with him and his firm. They've grown with us, and they're almost part of our team at this point. So I feel fortunate that way, because my biggest challenge recently has been when working with new subs and with groups that come in for the first time, either are not familiar with how we do things in our area, or just don't communicate the way that we communicate. So I feel fortunate to have that experience. That's not a rant, but what happens when he goes on vacation or something happens?
Yeah.
And then
Or
we're
if he
starting
decides to change careers.
Correct.
Or sell the company or something. Okay. And then the client experience for the training. You're turning over the home that you've just been so close to them in design, build, et cetera.
Yes, and that's where I was going to add. We do have our A team assembled, and we feel very fortunate that way. But we also still almost always have agreements for property management, and we almost always, because many of our homes are second homes, clients and owners coming up from the Bay Area, that we are on site almost every weekend before they get there to turn things back on and get things up and running again for them. It is not a seamless transition for them at all times. Now, that might have something to do with it snowing every day since December, and they can't get to the home, or the power's been off half the time. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's one of our biggest challenges.
That's one I hadn't thought of, that in educating or dealing with the property managers who handle those homes.
Correct.
Yes, so that's a good point. And again, we're going back to your full circle to education.
Yes.
Okay, that we need to do that, so. Okay, great, thank you, Michael. Okay, now another Michael. Michael Malinowski, representing the architecture community.
My name is Mike Malinowski. I'm an architect in Sacramento, California, and do residential work at all scales, both ownership and rental housing. And actually, last year I was the president of the AIA in California, the 11,000 architect members. So I kind of have a sense of what's happening broadly. And my perspective is pretty similar to what's been voiced. It strikes me that there are three things. The world's largest provider of lodging today owns no lodging. The world's largest provider of transportation doesn't own any vehicles. The world's largest retailer has no inventory. And all three of those companies are less than 10 years old. We live in a world of change that is happening so quickly, it is impossible for an architect or any designer to keep up with technology. So we're faced with customers who get these sound bites and see things on the internet. The couple of seconds of attention that they give to an ad creates a desire, and they're looking for a simple solution. And the reality is we have not yet reached the point that Uber and Airbnb have in terms of isolating the customer from the complexity of the technology. It is extremely complicated. And we haven't had that breakthrough yet, that you can literally buy a product and include it in a mix of other products and everything works. So I look at your list and I go backwards. Customer expectation, I think we all need to educate the customer, because when I see surveys like the smart home survey that Coldwell Banker did, it shows that the vast majority of home buyers are interested in smart home technology, and yet they expect it to happen for between $1,500 and $3,000. And that is not in line with the reality of our marketplace in terms of all these parts and pieces, the skill and the expertise that it takes to assemble the right products, to curate it on the job site, to put the systems into place, and then finally the biggest challenge is to support the customer, because we haven't yet created an interface that we have, like our smartphones. You know, you pick it up and you buy one and it's new, and you already intuitively know how it works if you had one before. We're not there yet with smart technology in homes. So those are huge disconnects that create this ongoing friction in the marketplace. When that is solved, the world's largest smart home vendor is going to probably be some company that maybe is here today, and they're going to crack this nut, and the demand is there, but the challenges are still huge which creates great opportunity.
I think you're saying a common theme, which we've said in our conversations and everyone's saying today, is they want it simple, and it's anything but simple. Okay, whether it be the user interface or the interoperability. Interoperability has been the topic for as long as I've been in this industry, 28 years. They're going to solve it with interoperability. We're not there yet. It will be a software play that solves it. And it may be, 28 years ago, I said, the ultimate user interface, what's the ultimate user interface? When they came out with touch screens, I said, oh, cool. And when they came out with voice control, oh, cool. The ultimate user interface, telepathy. I think it's going to happen. Okay, it was 4 years ago I saw telepathy. I did it at CES. It's not there yet, but we're going to get there. Or it's, my takeaway this year from CES was AI. It's AI, artificial intelligence, that's going in the whole algorithms of big data. It's going to figure out before we even know we want it, what it's going to, the house, et cetera, is going to do for us. We're not there yet, but the problem that everyone has said is still the problem. So, Yves, we saved the best for last. Okay. We have Yves Richard is representing the integrator community. So.
Hi, my name is Yves Richard. I'm the Executive Director of Integrated Systems Design. We're an integrator, and we've been in business since 1983, which is really when this industry didn't quite exist yet. To give you some perspective, our first touchscreen-based system was a DC gas plasma touchscreen that you used to see on Toshiba laptops that had red letters. And it was driven by an Apple IIe computer, and we wrote all the code in machine code and had to create our own our own interface to be able to connect it to the real world. So that's,
wouldn't go today. That was proprietary,
that was
very
a long
much.
time ago. So I'm just going to go through my rant real quick. At the risk of repeating what you all have already said, on the sales and customer expectations end, my most frustrating experience is not being able to meet with the actual client. It seems very strange, but in higher end construction, you're dealing with management companies, you're dealing with architects, and sometimes by the time you meet the client, a lot of decisions have already been made in the absence of the client, unfortunately. And so it is very hard to meet someone's expectations if you don't meet them at the very beginning. One of the things that I find, particularly in the sales process, is my first role is really to educate the client about technology in general. Not necessarily what I'm selling, but what is commonplace in the market. How do people deal with lighting? How do people deal with energy management? How do people deal with audio and video? Because a lot of customers actually know quite a bit, but they only know bits and pieces of it. They don't really see the big picture.
So would it be educating at that level, at the design planning, to educate and
Yes,
communicate?
actually, I typically ask for 2 hours just to be able to talk about stuff, without necessarily about the project in particular, just to be able to get into technology. In the design, production, planning, we're generally brought into the process way too late. I mean, the call that we get, we're closing walls next week and need to have the house pre-wired for low voltage, is not a joke. It does.
How many have had
actually
that
happen.
call? All the integrators.
And planning is done using individual trades only. The integrator sometimes is only brought in at the very end to integrate the whole system. And I would say if you want to have an integrated system, you need to have an integrated design process. If you don't have that, it's not going to work well. Job site, what happens to us a lot, we're typically in the job through the entire process because we're in the pre-wire phase, we're in the trim out phase, we're obviously in the design phase, and in the final installation phase. And many times the job site is only partially ready. You have access to the first floor, but you can't go upstairs, you can't go downstairs because of whatever construction is still going on, which makes it very inefficient and very hard to install stuff. And construction delays are a big issue for us.
And you still have the drop dead, they're moving in on this
Thanksgiving is
date.
the drop dead date. The whole family is flying in from all over the country, and we're going to have dinner here no matter what. And we should still be able to make the whole thing work, even though it may take 2 weeks to do the final, and we get 3 days. So That's of course a big pet peeve of mine. And then customer experience, sometimes customers just have unrealistic expectations because many times of what they see on TV. You know, they see something, they think that's really how it works. Well, it's not true. They don't understand, for instance, that these systems are complex. In order to make something simple, it takes complexity. And in order to have a system like that work, it requires maintenance. It's not something you put in the house and you forget about it. It's kind of like a car. You buy a car, it needs maintenance in order to run. And if you just put it in and don't do anything to it, it's not going to work. And then it's also sometimes not very easy to actually train a customer because they don't necessarily make themselves available for training. It would help so often if just a little bit of training time was reserved so it cuts down on the frustration because not everything is necessarily obvious in the system. So.
Great, thank you. So I think and that what you just said, Eve, is we go back to the beginning. At the end, the client's not available, et cetera. You want to upfront do that client expectations. That's in the sales process, et cetera. So great points. I got a lot of good takeaways, you guys. That was good. So this is food for thought. What we're going to go to now, we get our 1-minute rant. You get to say what is a challenge about, it's a lightning round, 1 minute each, about a product issue. We're not saying any manufacturers, but what are some product issues that you've experienced and would like addressed?
Technology is changing so quickly and the products are changing so fast. When a product is discontinued for whatever reason, there's not necessarily always a product to replace it using the same system that it came from, the same family. That's one of my pet peeves.
So product's available, you spec it, and then when it's time for install, it's no longer there and they don't really give you a good substitute?
Well, no, after it's installed.
Oh, after it's
and
installed in the
it's
service,
failed,
et cetera.
And something has failed, but they've moved on to another.
We could go all
level,
into that
yes.
debate that just came out last week about where Crestron's going to charge for their interoperability with other systems. So that's a whole session in itself.
But we're not going to mention any names.
Oh, you're right. Oh, golly. Thank you. I apologize. I apologize. I'm supposed to be leading the class. I didn't do well there. It's just a topic for discussion, and that may be an answer.
Yes.
That's going to be the challenge. Okay, Nadia.
I would say that it is an educational process, and we do intense research and lots of visits before we make a selection with clients. However, when the orange goes down to green, and it's called, but it dimmed, this is a huge issue for me. So I would say the integration, it always comes down to the items working well together and doing what they were sold and featured to do.
Okay, so did you say the items working well together?
Yeah.
Okay, so
When-
the
when
integration
an
of the systems.
Right,
Okay.
when an LED light does dim, but it changes the orange to green, you have a problem.
And that goes back that manufacturers should be looking at or thinking about, we're going to integrate with these other systems.
I think in this case, it went back to their standard of what they thought was norm. In other words, it dimmed, it did dim. There's no question it dimmed. But by definition, the expectation I have is dimming, we purchased it for it to be orange. Dimming it, I didn't expect it to turn green. I would have expected that to be a conversation.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay. Eric.
So listening to everybody and repeating some of the same themes over and over again, it seems like, I mean, if I was a manufacturer, obviously I want to make money, but some of them are split between the do-it-yourself market and then the actual professionals installing it. And I think there needs to be some type of division where they rename things, because I think the do-it-yourself market, at least from our end, is really harming the education and the expectation level process, because it's almost like that Amazon button. And the kids are learning, just push a button and it arrives at your house. And that's simple, it's great, but there is a cost associated with that. Mm-hmm. And so I think that simplicity, they're missing the cost and the process associated with it. It's not that fast. I mean, we were talking about one house took 9 months to become smart, right? So that's happening. And I think the do-it-yourself is a big problem, and it needs to not go away, but just somehow be isolated in a different way. It's setting up the other side of where we're at for catastrophe on the expectation levels.
Good point.
I'm
MJ?
noticing it's tougher the further down the line.
I know, I should have
to go
started
with my
at the
one
other
or
end.
my two, which were,
That's okay, you can
continuity
repeat, you feel
and,
strongly.
and the do-it-yourself market, which we've struggled with quite a bit. So I'm down to number 3, which is definitely security. I've had several clients in the last couple years, specifically on the last project we worked on, which was for, again, Bay Area owners, very private. We were not able to install the system that we wanted to because we could not guarantee the level of security that they were requesting.
You're talking about network or device security versus a security system?
Network device
Network,
security,
okay.
yeah.
That's what I thought, yes, and that's, good point. Okay, so, and I'm glad you had to go to number 3 because I wanted that one on the list, so, okay, thank you. Okay, Michael.
I'm going to switch it up a little bit and talk about a problem that hasn't occurred yet, but it is clearly coming. It's like a train heading toward us. We in California are world leaders when it comes to energy conservation and sustainability. We're so aggressive that we've created a legal mandate that within 2 years, every new home built in the state of California will be net zero energy. I don't believe the marketplace is ready. I don't believe our customers are ready. I don't believe the design professions are ready. We're heading for some major disconnects. And I can tell you that in the commercial market, I do work in the commercial, just the advances in the energy code in the last 2 years have created situations where it is impossible for certain types of projects to meet the requirements of the code. Impossible. Either the products don't exist, or the code was written assuming you had trade-offs. So something as simple as changing the storefront on a retail building that faces west, and if that's all you're doing, you can't do that in the state of California as of today, because the code mandates that the maximum light transmission through that glass is going to be 26%. What retailer is going to accept being on a street where you look at the building and what you see is black glass?
74%.
It doesn't work. You're going to have a business out of business in a vacant building, and all of a sudden you've shot yourself in the foot. Maybe you think you're saving energy, but you're killing. So we are heading toward that level of disconnect that already exists in the commercial market. We're heading for that in the residential market within the next 2 years.
That was great, thank you. Okay.
So from an integrator's point of view, my complaints are products are released before they're ready. Happens a lot.
You've seen that?
We end up doing the beta testing in the field for some manufacturers, and we really don't want to be in that position. It also creates a bad reputation for the industry as a whole, because if things don't work, then the notion that the customer has about the industry is the industry doesn't work. There's something wrong with these products. Unsolicited firmware updates. I can't tell you how many systems of ours have crashed for some reason because, or not fully crashed, but certain things wouldn't work anymore because individual devices are forced to do an update in their firmware, and now a feature that used to work no longer works, or the unit freezes up and is absent from the system. I mean, there's always issues with that. Inadequate tech support from manufacturers is a big problem for us. I can't have technicians in the field that have to be on hold for half an hour before they get somebody on the phone. Hours are typically, with a lot of manufacturers, hours are too short. We're on the West Coast. They're an East Coast manufacturer. If you don't get it done by, 2 o'clock, you don't get anybody. Or weekends aren't covered, which is also a problem. And lastly, and that kind of comes to something you were talking about, but sometimes the unwillingness of manufacturers to lend support across product lines. When you do an integrated system, you're not going to have hardware and software that's only from one manufacturer. It is really a bunch of things that need to talk to each other. And if you end up in a situation where manufacturers basically say, well, if there's something else in that system, I'm sorry, we can't help you because I'm sure it's not us, it's the other guy. And that's not a good approach to making things work. So that's my pet rant.
This list really inspired me. And we're going to break into our roundtable soon, and I want to take all these. I write for SDM, Security Distributing Marketing Magazine, a monthly column, and I write other things. I'm going to write an open letter to the manufacturers with the stuff we get out of today's session, okay, with recommendations. Will they listen? I don't know, but we will share that information. So all of these points were really, really great. So we're going to now go to, thank you, I liked our lightning round. Okay, we're going to break into our roundtables, and each, based on your table number, we have 5 questions we want to address. And panelists have been assigned to a table. So, but first I want to thank our panelists. I'm not going to make you guys come up here at the end again, okay? So thank you guys, this is very good. You'll be around for this event and afterwards, I hope, so take a look and find them, and you can ask questions. Okay? After this session, I'll come on up front or stay up front for questions afterwards.
Okay, we're going to get started here with table 4, and they had the sales and customer expectation setting, and our spokesperson is Stephen Jans. And Stephen, we need you to, stand up, and we're going to look back into the camera here. We're going to put you on IMAG. Go ahead and report out what you guys covered, the solutions you came up with.
Okay, so again, in the beginning of the process, this is going to be the sales and customer expectations process. One of the big things that we all talked about, which is a relatively new thing, is overcoming unrealistic marketing expectations. One thing that was mentioned in particular was a TV commercial, I think from Vivint, where you were able to turn off your kitchen faucet from your phone. And we all know that's a product that doesn't really exist right now, but some customers think that it does. Another one that we mentioned was the Amazon Alexa controlling your whole home by itself, and customers not understanding that it's actually just talking to other subsystems in the home. So just setting those expectations, really setting the expectations up, which is our second thing, setting the expectations up of the internet pricing, talking to customers about what gray goods means in terms of warranties, and then especially for a networked product, talking about the difference between something that you buy and something that you buy configured. A good example that we talked about was when the Apple TV 3rd generation was being sold for $70. We would have it at double that because it was configured, because we were setting up all the apps and setting up accounts online and setting up their iTunes account and sharing their iTunes account, and that wasn't really anywhere on the internet in terms of pricing. So, and that really kind of leads to the point of showing the value of configuration, because that's really something that's invisible to the client. They just see the end system and how it works, but they don't know that there's a lot of configuration in terms of setting up IP addresses and configuring different apps and making sure they're all compatible with each other. That really needs to be done in the background. And then the other thing is for all those customers that want to move in on Thanksgiving and want to move in on Christmas, we have to set up expectations that says, okay, if you want to move in at 6, you can't have the house ready for us to start programming at 5. So really to set up the expectations with not only the customer, but with everybody else who's involved in the project, that we need adequate time to program, troubleshoot, work out any kinks, and then train the customer so that when they're at that Thanksgiving dinner, they know how to use their system. And then, let me see, all-in users part. And then one thing we thought would be great is integrators were always the last to the party. Most of the time, we'll get on the job when it's already been framed. Sometimes all the MVP stuff is already in, and so we're always playing catch up. So we thought it would be great, especially in the larger projects, if we got actually invited to the sales meeting along with the general contractor, the interior designer, the electrician, the plumber, the rough framer, and we could bring up various issues or things you want to think about at that phase, so that we don't have orange light turning green. And then really the last part is proper documentation, and really making sure that everybody is on top of everything that they see in a particular job, and if they see a particular issue, communicating that to the parties that need communicating to. I know in a lot of our projects, I'll actually share with the general contractor some free project management software that we use and suggest to him, say, hey, tell all your subs that if they hear anything that the customer says about another subsystem or something they heard on TV, post that online so everybody can read it. And then tell all your subs that every day they have to get a download of what is being said at that job, because all of us are at different jobs during the day, and we may miss stuff that may be critical to what we're supposed to deliver to the client. So I think that was it from us.
Let's hear it for them. Table 4.
We're over at table number 7. They were the design and production planning phase, and this is Sean from Envision Home Theater. As soon as he gets his paper set up. There we go.
So challenges presented during the design production planning, lack of communication between different subs. Sorry, I'm not a good public speaker. I'll just start by saying that. Lack of knowledge. Don't stretch yourself too thin. Qualifying I'm going to start by saying a lot of the design goes into the sales process. So generally when I go to sell a project, I will design most of the whole system before I even sell it. So then the project gets handed over to my project manager, and he has most of the information he already needs. So I want to start by saying that. Value placement. I don't remember too much about that one. Core. So the core system, what parts and pieces are going to go into the actual system itself, and how they will implement. And then standard. This is a big issue that I see out there. There's really no standards of what we do on a day-to-day basis in our industry. So, you know, any electrician can run a bunch of wires, and somebody else can come, you know, us integrators can come in later and hook up the system and go from there. Once again, I'm terrible at public speaking, so thank you. And then solutions, solutions to the challenges. Build packages, keep it simple. I think it's always important to stick with small, simple packages. Especially, a lot of this is going into builders that are working with builders that are doing multiple homes that are almost the same. So creating packages for them so it's very straightforward. Design, engineering during sales, I already went over that. Technology and communication. Luckily, we have lots of technology today with the iPhone and iPads, and there's multiple apps out there that can help the design production planning phase by creating easy communication between multiple different subs and inside the company. I'll just tell you, there's a project management software that's free called Asana. I think it's fantastic, and it's available to anybody to use, and it's basically a piece of software without having to email everyone. You create all the contacts inside there, and then you add them as a follower, and it pops up on their iPhone and tells them what's going on the project. And then, most importantly, teamwork. Making sure that everybody works together to basically make the client happy at the end, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, we're at table 8, which also tackled the design and production planning phase. And I'm going to accept this challenge and introduce Ryan Bebahani. All right. Ryan, tell us what your company is, and go ahead and report out. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I'm from San Diego. Our company is Digital Home Lifestyles, and we are system integrators, doing all kind of the fun stuff and the extra stressful stuff of most of the projects involved in building a home. So what we came up with is, like they spoke on earlier, is getting us designed early on. Most of us integrators have probably walked into a job and, like the guy was saying earlier, can you wire it tomorrow? It's like, no, why don't you have us in here earlier? Because now everywhere we want to put stuff, like say, for example, thermostats. So thermostats aren't the prettiest things in the world, but we can control them with a control system. So rather than having the thermostat on the wall, well, let's just put a temperature sensor there. But since you've already paid for the HVAC guy to wire it all, we're burning money over here and we're wasting time. What else do we have on here? So the problems we run into is we're like general contractors as well, because we deal with, one, the general contractor, we deal with the architect, we deal with the electrician, the HVAC guy, and all of that. So once again, bringing that back to, we need to get this stuff done early on as possible, because the earlier on that it's done, there's less confusion, and everything will work seamlessly together. Sorry, we were kind of like ranting over here, and Katie was writing as fast as possible, and I can't remember everything we put on here. One of my biggest pet peeves, and I know a lot of guys come across it too, is the electricians doing our job, you know. Just because if they do high voltage, you know, they can run low voltage, but doesn't necessarily mean they're doing the right thing. I think we can all agree that countless times we've walked into a job and it's already been wired by the electrician, it's been wired incorrectly, and no one's going to pay to have it rewired because they already had the electrician do it. So one of the things I was suggesting is, since we have to get our C7 for our industry, that if they're going to do ours, they should have to do a little more research and know a little bit more about our industries, because not running wire is not the same. It's just, you can just run any wire and speakers to speakers. It just doesn't work that way. Architects. So when you're dealing with everybody but us at the beginning of a project, maybe because you just didn't know about what a system integrator was. So when you're going to school, you know, let's get these professors involved, get these guys at some of these trade shows and say, look, there's these people called system integrators, and what they do is they make everything come together as easy as possible. So when an architect is building or designing a structure, well, let's get a pro in here that knows what he's doing. Let's not just randomly put things all over the place. I mean, I can't even count the times I walked into a job, seen a TV jack right there, and then the closest power outlet is over there. Like, what happened there? Like, I mean, I don't know. Sorry, I'm not very good at this either. I'm not sure what the last one is, but I think I might have went over that already. I don't know. I think that pretty much, I mean, they did such a good job at the panel earlier, so we're kind of just echoing some of the stuff that they kind of said already, as well as what the Table 7 has said as well. It's just, our side system integrators just get us involved early as possible, to make the whole project work just as seamless as convenient. So it's better for the end user and the homeowner and the contractors and everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Architects, integrators are people too, okay? Tony.
All right, over at Table 14, they took on the job site phase, and Sean with One Touch Living will talk about their table.
Thank you. What's up, San Diego people? Ryan Bebahani. Sorry, a little shout out to my boys. All right, we took on job site phase and the problems that are associated with the job site and all the change orders and all the issues we deal with on the job site. Again, echoing what everyone else is saying, the earlier the better. The more we qualify what the project is and the scope and everything's documented, it eliminates a lot of those issues. When a customer changes something, that's a change order, and we're just going to deal with it when they change scope. But when it's misplanned or mistimed, then that's where we all can probably improve. And most of that is, one of the great ideas I thought was a trade responsibility checklist for the builder to distribute to all the trades. So who's doing this, who's doing that? And in the beginning, we can get the electricians to sign off, we can get the builders to sign off, and then it's all documented on who's responsible for what. I thought that was a great idea. The other one, trade job site meetings. So we've all gone to trade job site meetings, but I think, as we mentioned earlier is better. Early and often is better. It's hard to get us all together, whether that's through email communication or what. We need to communicate more often, or at least have a pointed conversation towards what it is we're trying to accomplish. Putting the agreements in writing, which is really documentation. I think we all have to put everything in writing, and we can all say a lot of things and handshake and look in the eye, and then somehow it's all forgotten. It's a lot easier when it's written down and signed off and stamped. And then the frequent updates to the clients that goes back to the trade job site meetings. If we're constantly having meetings or talking about it and communicating, everyone's on board, everyone knows what's going on, whether it's the client, the project manager, the builder, the architect, whoever's running it, they're all happy. And everyone's happy on the job site. There's never an issue. Right? Perfect. Anything else? We're good.
Thanks, John.
Okay. Moving on to table 17, who will be addressing the customer experience and support phase. Go ahead and introduce yourself and your company and shoot away.
Okay. Mike McMaster, Wilshire Media Systems in Thousand Oaks. So we came up with about five solutions to how we finish jobs, which, we finish on all different levels. So number one, we came up with scheduling multiple training dates. So we're done, we do an explanation, but these systems are complicated, and you just can't take it all in one meeting. So some companies are setting, a 3-week follow-up and then another 3-week follow-up just to put it on the calendar. They may not need all three, but at least they're there, so it eliminates service calls. Number two, one of the people at the table was doing video manuals for their clients. So they actually paid a videographer to come in when the house was unoccupied and go through how to turn on a pool. And instead of having a big book, which they do as well, you've got these nice little video tutorials that you can go through and refresh your memory if you forget how to do something. Number three, warranty maintenance business. Offering warranties, explaining the difference between a manufacturer warranty for equipment, warranty for our workmanship as an integrator, and warranty for what it's going to take to do service and pull out equipment if it does fail. So just explaining that and letting people know that all systems, like cars and boats, need ongoing maintenance. I think last one we covered was support, how to contact us for support. There were different ways of doing that. We were trying to look for different ways. One thing came up called virtual receptionist, because everyone else is getting text messages and things from their customers. If there was a better way to contact for support and ticket that and create a ticketing system, we were kind of looking for that. So those were our top 4 or 5.
And right next door to table 18, Tom from Watt Companies. Take it away.
Okay. We addressed the trade disconnects with the customer, and one of the things was having a PM do the coordination, and I think this falls back to, at least in our builder's business, is the general contractor builder coordinating the beginning phases of the project and value engineering. When you do the trusses, you do the plumbing, the electrical, you also would incorporate the low voltage people. Trades don't always work well together. I know that this gentleman mentioned, somebody there mentioned a checklist. I think that's a great idea to help the team come to bring the project to fruition. Integrator is the last call, and that's going back to having them at the front end, just like you would your truss guy and the MEPs. Another thing too is in the business I've been involved with home builders is that we will offer packages that are, and a lot of folks here offer some really expansive and complicated packages, but to keep them simple and to make sure that these salespeople are educated enough so that they don't set the expectation of the buyer, and then have a designated person within from your subcontractor, if it's an electrician or the low voltage person, meet with the buyer in your design center to go over the packages that you're offering so that their expectations are set properly, and then go back, and then it also produce a diagram, whatever things are going, explain to them the warranty, explain to them the different aspects of the products, their good points, bad points, and then put that into a diagram so that your superintendent has that, so that he knows exactly what's going into that house. He can help go back to coordinating. And going back to the integrator doesn't manage expectations. They have to, putting people in front of the buyer that have the expertise to properly explain it to them and not oversell it or not make promises that are not unrealistic or can't be fulfilled. Let me see what I have.
Thank you. Over to table 21, Gordon Van Zyden, Cyber Manor, is going to talk about product issues. Look into that camera.
Thanks, John. So our table responsible for home technology and interoperability issues. A number of those were already expressed on the panel eloquently by another custom integrator, similar company like Cybermanor. Maybe I'll quickly jump to the conclusion because, at least from our perspective, the only way you have any kind of interoperability in technology is if you have client interoperability. And what I mean by that is either this is a client you can work with or it's not a client you can work with. In the nature of home technology, we can have everything working the day that they move in, and it can all break the next week through no fault of our own. So interoperability is no guarantee in an industry where the largest companies in the world are fighting for their share of the pie. And as a result, they're all keeping their domains and their technology in various degrees somewhat proprietary. Makes it very hard to make that all interoperable. But that's why we have a job, and we try to do it well. But we listed a number of things, and one of them was as I said, the size of these companies, and Samsung, Apple, Google, Panasonic. All of them make a very broad and wide range of products, but unlike the automobile industry, where you can go to Mercedes and get one car for that need of transportation, the housing industry doesn't have a home that's built by Apple or Google. It's built by many, many, many vendors in the technology space. I don't see that changing anytime soon. So we're just going to have incompatible issues. I think Helen mentioned it earlier too. Each year we think we're going to be more compatible and the products will have more interoperability, and each year that seems to be more and more of an elusive goal. So we just have to deal with the benefits and work around some of the drawbacks. These things also increase, the complexity increases with the size of our client base. I think we saw that statistic that most of this technology is more readily absorbed by people who are building homes that are $3 million and greater because they can afford it and because they have these massive homes. So that's a great fit for us, but that's just many more pieces on the home network that we have to resolve and make sure that they're compatible. So I don't think we have any glorious answer to this, but the net I say is, probably like in any profession, you work with a compatible client, you get compatible solutions, and you have a happy ending. You don't have that, you don't have a happy ending.
Thank you. Does anyone have a burning desire to share a solution with the audience? Over here.
Hi, I'm KC with Vertex AV out of Huntington Beach, California, just down the road. I think I had the shortest commute probably. Actually, we at this table 22, we really noticed and focused in on the product compatibility issues, and we noticed that the biggest compatibility problem on the market today is that the 85-inch TV just doesn't match the fabric on the couch. That was a joke for all you designers out there. Anyways, number one, I think everybody's really said it, the ultimate solution is to have the integration team be a part of that architectural plan. There are so many homes being built today with 7 light switches in the kitchen that just don't need to be there. Okay, that is a fundamental problem of architecture, believe it or not. The system was designed improperly to begin with. The 4 big things that we want to talk about for us as far as an integration standpoint that affects everyone in this room. Number 1, LED lighting. Every single manufacturer has different protocols that don't work with any lighting dimmers, that don't work with what the customer wants ultimately. You have to have somebody on your team that's an expert in LED lighting, how to dim it properly, how that affects the electrician, how that affects everything all the way down the line. So it's a huge problem as far as compatibility. Networking, as it's been mentioned several times, all the way from security to I can magically put this device on Wi-Fi. It's a non-deterministic system that requires intense development to actually deploy properly. Will the cable company's router work for your house? The answer is no. It's always no. It will always be no. Can I go down to a store and buy a box for $100 and make everything work in my house? The answer is no. It's always going to cost a significant ticket amount to make an enterprise-grade network, especially on the residential side. The other huge problem that we have from a product compatibility standpoint is Windows. Nobody here is representing the window treatment. Maybe you are, but Windows specifically are not designed properly to fit window treatments. That affects integrators that want to automate those shades. That affects builders. That affects window manufacturers, designers, everybody. That is a huge problem that people, they get a brand new house and they can't figure out what type of window treatment to put on that house. Last but not least, wiring correctly. And not just, the builder or the contractor says Cat 5 is great. The architect specs out Cat 5. The integrator knows that there's no way any Cat 5 is going to be put in that house. It has to be at least Cat 6. Some of them, smart ones, are actually starting to put fiber inside of a house. And if you're not pushing the edge with fiber, you're missing a big window of opportunity here to where you can make a house actually future compatible. So those are some of the big ones that we saw were the problems. The ultimate solution that's been mentioned by every single table so far is get the integrators as a consultant in the beginning. That way your systems are designed properly going forward. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. There's great passion there. All right, let's turn it back over to Helen to wrap up.
That's a lot of good stuff. I have lots of notes. I'm looking forward to sharing it and gathering it and getting more together. So, and going around working with you, well done, everybody out there. And for wrap up, I thought of some, because remember, for 10 years I did sales and install, and so I came up with things that I saw that we found solutions for, and that I've also seen with all the different integrators that I've worked with and such. And one is gather the contact information. Get everybody who's playing. I say do this up front, early on in the sales process. Okay, oops, sorry, I want to go back. Okay, get the architect, the builder. When the customer is on a high and you're selling them and they've just signed on, et cetera, find out who, the plumber, the electrician, the designer, get their emails, et cetera, have all that information, and then be the hero because you share that with the other trades. You're the resource. Share it, give it to the homeowner and such. So gather all that information, because at the drop-dead moment where you need an answer to a question and you don't know the person's mobile phone, you've got it here. Okay? Next thing is, I gave you that flow chart. There should be a flow chart for all of your stages. This is something that we've done. Bedrock Learning will be on the floor 8:02, so you can stop by if you want to ask me questions, learn more. But you should flow chart your project processes from the sales to the install to the client support to a service call. It gets everybody on the same page in your company. It communicates it to the other trades that you're professional, you're organized, and you have a process and can cookie cut. You can repeat it over and over again, okay? So next suggestion is I handed out a flyer. I'm passionate about industry icons. It's 20 years ago that I started working on icons and symbols, and after a 4 or 5 year project working with CEDIA, Infocom, and CTA, that's Consumer Electronics Association formerly, who puts on CES, those 3 organizations, we painstakingly went through the subsystems in the home and the icons and came up with these. They're available for sale at the association's website. We are CTA's authorized partner, so you can get them from Bedrock. But you can also at our website download for free the white paper, which is 50 pages on these are the symbols that you should use and how you should use them, etc. So highly recommend that, because it communicates, breaks down the miscommunication, and clearly communicates up front what's going in the home. And you'll identify on paper or on electronically that it's not going to fit before you get to the field and try to put something in, okay? Next is that network. We can't say enough about the network documentation, okay? So there's software out there. There's monitoring software for managing the network. get all the data. Remember I said gather the data of the parties involved? Gather the data, the router, the ISP, all those, your static IPs, et cetera. Get that document, have it securely recorded, okay? And do that. The other thing I didn't put on the slide, but I thought of, just came out this week, CTA, Consumer Technology, the TecHome division. We've been working for the past year and a half on a network security checklist, okay? So if you're a CTA member, I think you can get the white paper for free. I don't know, but if you're a member, you can use this checklist. This is how to secure your network. It has the password, what to do on routers, et cetera, and it's just launched this week. So you can ask me more about it or go to CTA, TecHome.com and learn more about it, okay? So that network, again, documentation, and I think everybody had something to say about documentation. Next is I put together a little best practices checklist on what you should do, okay? So first, did you share that contact information with all those other parties? Share it with the homeowner, be their hero. Here's everybody that's working on your job, okay? Next step is schedule weekly or bi-weekly trade meetings, okay? Builders do this automatically. Include the integrator up front. You go around the group. We actually have here's an agenda of what to talk about. Have a project kickoff. If you're the integrator or you're the builder, have a project kickoff and involve all of the trades. So make that happen, get it on the schedule. Next is communicate and document expectations. Everyone said that up front at the sales process. When they're all excited, tell them, now remember, at the end, I'm going to need 3 different times where I'm going to train you. When I sold, I said, okay, my responsibilities are to deliver a system that works. Your responsibilities are, you've just told me everything you wanted, you're going to sign off on the design, we're going to go back and forth, you're going to communicate changes, you're going to sign off on them, and you're going to communicate any changes, and oh, by the way, you're also going to pay me per the payment schedule, and very important. And at the end, remember, I need 3 times to train you, okay? So you're laying that expectation down up front, okay? Use the CAD, electronic CAD plans, floor plans if you can. Get the icons, they're $149 to download, and they're in Visio and AutoCAD and JPEGs and PNGs and all sorts of different files. So you can use that. Mark them up. Next is establish who owns the network and is responsible for it. Get that documentation. Is it the integrator? Who's going to be it? Okay. I do some independent work with clients. Will hire me as their electronics architect or representative, et cetera. I went into one friend's house and they had no clue. They didn't know their Sonos passwords. They didn't know the Control4 passwords. They didn't know their Netflix password, and they'd had it and never used it for 2 years, et cetera. Gather that all together. Again, you're the hero. Put all that information together and share it with the project manager or whoever handles that in the higher-end homes. And then communicate and document changes. Okay, any decisions that were made and changes. If they decided to move the media center, the big screen from the left to the right side of the room, but now because of the vaulted ceiling, it's going to take a lot more wire and time. Document that at the time, write a change order, get them to sign off, and tell them what it's going to cost them to do that. Document, document, document. Don't go in and do a project for 40 or 100 grand, and then at the end when you figure out all the change orders and add-ons, it's another 68,000. They're going to go, what? So document as you go and communicate that, okay? There are more and more things you can do. I'm happy to talk with you, share any of my ideas from my experience, help you. You got things you want to show me, ask me about. I'm here because I'm passionate about this industry, and I want to help you, okay? I want you to succeed, whether you be a builder, an integrator, an interior designer, and such. Oh, I wanted to share. He suggested we need to educate architects and such. I'm a chair of the workforce committee for CTA, and we just did a survey that was published in CE Pro, and we're trying to figure out how to get more people into our industry and provide you the qualified, educated technicians, which several people said was a challenge. The other thing we're trying, that I'm on the CABA, we're writing a white paper about what's available in education and training at all the levels, from the tech schools, high school, community college, college, and postgraduate. okay? So I think we're putting a course together is an excellent idea to educate the architects, the electricians. I'm also in discussions with the electrical guys, IBEW, to educate their guys about what's happening in our industry. So any ideas, I gained a lot from today. That's why I do this involvement, because I always learn from doing it. So I got great ideas. I'm excited. I'm going to write my open letter to the manufacturer about what they can do better to help us. And that's it. So thank you very much. I'll be here the next 2 days.